Well, it's that time again. I'm in the tackle room and it's time for another Match Memories. I'm not going to go too far back in time for this one. I'm going to go back to late September and it's the South East Reservoir Championships final at Bough Beech. Obviously they reached the point, we've had a bit of an indifferent year, events being cancelled and this, that and everything else. And I was really looking around for something to get my teeth into. And then I saw on the wall in my tackle room the list of matches for the South East Reservoir Championships. Now you have to qualify, you have to win your section, so there's 3 qualifiers on every match. It's not going to be easy to qualify, but I managed to get a few tickets for the qualifiers at Bough Beech. I think I fished about 6 or 7, and like I say, for me it's very important with my fishing to get my teeth into something and start to, just one match on one venue isn't really enough for me. I like to have a bit of a campaign on a venue and sort of fish match after match after match, and hopefully it's building up to something. So like I say, I had 5 or 6 tickets for qualifiers. Really had a bee in my bonnet, wanted to qualify. And it didn't take too long, to be fair. I was quite fortunate. The first qualifier I went on, drew peg 1 on the dam wall, which is end peg. It had produced weights of in excess of 20 pounds in recent matches. So obviously I was quite happy when I drew it. I was next to a good friend of mine, Terry Harrison. He's been around years, Terry. I've learnt a lot from him. Got a lot of respect for him, and he's a fantastic angler. And we had a good match. Like I say, I was on the end, so I really went there. For those of you that don't know Bough Beech, there's some big weights to be caught on the feeder. Basically, you're fishing for skimmers and bream on the feeder, and roach, perch, and maybe an odd skimmer or an odd hybrid on the pole. Having drawn MPEG and knowing the form of the venue, I decided really to attack it on a pole. Feeding a short line, so if it's good, the fish will come close, but 13 metres was going to be my main line. I threw in 5 or 6 balls and was loose feeding casters and hemp over it, fishing little bits of wormhead or single casters. Single dead red maggot turned out to be a very good bait. At the end of the match I managed to put just under 17 pound on the scale, which, like I say, I was really over the moon qualifying on the first match. Terry ended up with about 13 pound. I had a little bit of pike problem. There's quite a few pike in Bough Beech and they can be a bit of a problem. They're even chasing the perch, which they normally leave alone. But, the fish came in and out of my peg. It was a bit of an indifferent day, but again, I managed to just catch enough to win my section. And more importantly, get myself in that 2-day final that was at the end of September. Now, a lot of people, once they're qualified, their tickets are gone. They get rid of them. They're just going to go on the final. But it's completely different for me. I've had a love affair with Bough Beech now for probably around 20 years. When I first went there, I absolutely loved the place. Not just the fishing, not just the place, not just the style of fishing, not just the people that go there, but everything about it. For those of you that have either been there or seen pictures, it's so picturesque, it's absolutely beautiful. And I can't think of anywhere better or where I'd rather go fishing. Coupled with a good competition, and obviously, it makes a winning combination for me. So all the matches that I had tickets for, I went back. Seemed to draw the same little area. So you've got the tower in the middle of the dam wall. And I actually drew peg 18 twice and peg 19 once. So I didn't experiment too much on the different parts of the reservoir, but I do know it quite well from years gone by. There's 4 or 5 distinct areas. You've got the yachting bank, where there's normally around 8 to 12 pegs. Then you've got the dam wall, which takes up to about 30 permanent pegs. Then you've got Lone Tree Point, you've got Woody's Point and the grassy bank. And it's just a fantastic venue to go and fish, and anywhere where you're wading out in the water and you're catching a few fish and you can be quite aggressive with the feed, I'm bang up for, and that's my style of fishing. So like I say, really you had pole and feeder. I felt like I understood the pole quite well, knew what I wanted to feed, knew the depths I wanted to fish in, knew the floats, knew the rigs. So bearing in mind I qualified, it sort of gave me the green light on the next few matches to go and experiment and try things. And with a fall in temperature, the northerly winds starting to play a part, as they do at that time of year, found quite a big change on the venue. speaking to very, very good feeder anglers, you know, like Dean Barlow and so on, and they were coming back with information about what depths to fish in, what distances to fish in. Obviously at Bough Beech, the further you go out, most of the time the deeper it gets. If you're on the dam wall, you can have 7 to 8 foot on the pole and anything up to 30 foot on the feeder line if you do go out to 60 metres. But there was quite a learning curve for me on these practice matches, and like I say, the first time the match after I qualified, I drew peg 18. I think I had about 13 pound on the feeder. It was really windy and I just fished short. And again, a good friend of mine, Steve Harwood, who'll be mentioned again later. I was in the Young England team with Steve, and we had a fantastic day next to each other, just talking about times gone by, brilliant days fishing. I think I had 13 pound and he won the section with about 19 pound. He fished the pole and I only fished the feeder. But like I say, and you know, you've heard me mention this before, you know, practicing for me isn't about filling my net. It's about learning how to fill my net when I really need to. And not only could I just concentrate on the feeder and try things, but I could obviously watch what people were doing on the pole. Carbon copy the next match, drew peg 19. I fished the short feeder. But again, a little bit of a learning curve. The guy next to me fished a bit further, didn't catch a lot, but he did catch a couple of decent fish. And Ian Germaini, who's a fantastic angler on this venue, actually beat me by an ounce this day for the section. I think I had just under 16 pound and he literally beat me by an ounce. Again, a fantastic match. But lessons were learnt, and already I had this seed planted in my head. I'm not fishing far enough to catch these bigger fish. On the following match, I drew next to, again, one of probably the most consistent angler at Bough Beech, in Gary Miller. Gary Miller's been around for years, fishing for Essex County. Now he fishes for, I think, Image. Fantastic angler and very difficult to beat. This day, I decided I drew peg 18 again, believe it or not. And these aren't small matches, you know, they're 50, 60 peg matches. So to draw, you know, the same sort of peg and be looking at the same horizon, it was a bit, you know, sort of deja vu. But drew next to Gary, and this day I decided to fish at 60 metres. I'm fishing out in the deep, I'm fishing out in the big body of water. And I'm looking for a lot less fish, but bigger fish. And this is definitely what happened. I had a couple of bream up to 4 pound. I think I weighed in about 17 or 18 pound. But again, Gary won the section with about 20 pound on the pole. But I was only 1 or 2 fish short. Now, the following match is where it all came together for me. Fished a 2-day match before the actual weekend of the final. The first day I drew on the far bank. I came second in the match with 23 pound of roach on the pole. It's only 2.5 foot deep at 12 metres. But like I say, this is the beautiful thing about Bough Beech. You can cast a feeder into 30 foot of water and catch 20 pound of skimmers. You can fish a pole in 2.5 foot of water and catch 25 pound of roach. It really is a special, special place. The second day is, like I say, when it really came good for me for practice and things started to click. Drew peg 13 on the dam wall. Again, 2 or 3 pegs short of the tower. Not the best area, but, you know, by no means the worst. Again, drew next to a good friend of mine, Tommy Hillier. We had a good match. I fished a bit further than Tommy, and I had a little run in the middle of the match where I caught 2 or 3 decent fish, and I actually weighed in 25 pound, which was enough to win the section and frame, and now things started to click. What you got to bear in mind as well is that this final at Bough Beech is on weight. It's not on section points or overall points, it's on weight. Now, my thinking was, if I fish 60 metres on the feeder and I catch 20 pound, I'm 2 to 3 bites off of catching 30 pound. If I fish a pole and catch 200 roach for 20 pound, I'm possibly 100, 120 fish off catching 30 pound. So immediately the sort of winning mentality that I've got over the last few years, you know, sort of came to the fore, and I was trying to come up with a plan where I can catch a weight and actually try and win the event. So the final came round. Again, the first day, unbelievably windy. We're all at the draw, and a lot of fantastic anglers have qualified for this event. You know, anglers like Nicky Howes, anglers like Brian Nesbitt, Charlie Lovell, they're all there. You know, Dean Barlow, some very, very good anglers. Richard Taylor, ex-Essex County, fantastic angler. After the draw, again, it's all done social distancing, your peg's drawn for you. And I drew actually peg, I think it was 59, and it put me end peg on the yachting bank. So it's the natural bank, right where you draw, end peg up to the right. And what's beautiful about that is you can park your van literally 30 metres behind you. I had a real strong wind coming in at me. But all my gear was right, you know, 12-foot SLRs, the new TDR distance reels, 010 tournament braid with a shock leader, this, that and the other, fishing window feeders. I felt all my gear was right, and I could fish 60 metres, and it was very, very windy, gusts up to 35 mile an hour, side on. But, excuse me, but having practiced and fished a lot at that style of fishing, you know, I was basically at Bough Beech 3 times a week for about 6 weeks. Pleasure fishing, doing little articles, it's all, you know, practice, and it all counts for something come the day. Now, I knew that the weekend before, on this 2-day, that there'd been a 19 pound off of my peg on the feeder, and it really, really was windy. Now, the yachting bank can be good for the pole. So, with it being windy, I decided to feed a top 6 with just ground bait and try and loose feed an odd pouch full of casters, but feeder was really where my attention and, you know, the sort of, you know, that's what I wanted to do, because I felt if I caught a handful more fish than anyone else doing it, I could catch a much, much bigger weight because of the size of the fish. Had a fantastic start. Again, I'm not putting lots of bait out, I'm just in and out, you know, every 2 or 3 minutes just putting bait in. Had a fantastic start. I caught 7 or 8 nice big skimmers and a 3-pound bream in the first hour and 20 minutes. And I can remember actually calling Dean, good friend of mine, Dean Barlow, saying to him after an hour and a half, I've probably got 13 or 14 pounds, you know, like things are really good. And this is where things took a little bit of a turn for the worse. And I think sometimes, you know, end pegs are fantastic. I'd take one every day of the week if I could. But sometimes they can be a little bit of a disadvantage. Bearing in mind I was trying to fish further than people, coupled with the fact I'm on the end, I'm completely on my own. The 2 guys on my left are fishing 40 metres, I'm fishing 60. And when the fish went, it wasn't like they just went to my neighbour and came back to me. You know, when they went, they sort of vacated the area. And basically the match saw me sort of catch really well at the start, 2 or 3 fish halfway through, and I sat there for like an hour and a bit without a bite. And then the last 40 minutes, luckily, the fish came back. Caught 2 or 3 decent breams, some big skimmers, and ended the match with 29 pound. Richard Taylor up, more into the body of the section in the middle, managed to catch, I think, 36 pound. He came second in the match. And a guy that I mentioned earlier, Steve Harwood, a fantastic angler, wins a lot on natural venues. Venues like the Trent, venues like the River Thames, and obviously natural venues like Bough Beech, very difficult to beat. But he'd been end peg on the dam wall up the other end, peg 30, I think about 30, 29, 30. And he'd actually come back with over 40 pound of roach, so a fantastic day. But after the first day of the final, you can imagine, I think I was laying in 3rd or 4th place. There's a 40 pound, a 36. Trying to think of the other weights. And like I say, I've had 29, so I'm not a million miles off. And also I'm going to the dam wall the second day, which is the order I wanted to draw in. I wanted to be on the natural banks the first day, because notoriously the dam wall's slightly harder, so you want to be there and have a chance when some bait's gone in, when them bigger fish can sometimes move in. So it was straight home, back into the tackle room, tie a few more hooks, redid a few pole rigs, got all my bait ready for the next morning. Got to Bough Beech, again we queued up outside, social distancing, your peg was drawn for you, and it saw me on permanent peg 13 on the dam wall, which is the peg, if you remember, I said I was next to Tommy Hillier, exactly the same peg. So you can imagine I'd won the section with 25 pound the weekend before, and I'm thinking, right, you know, I've got a real good chance. On looking, obviously parking the van and looking over the dam wall and that and looking down, the wind was absolutely horrendous. Now when you've got a strong northerly at Bough Beech, it's straight in your face there, and it was strong. I mean, properly like howling in your face. Your keep net was blowing up the bank, one of these real wet and windy and wild days. But the fishing, you know, it did take a little bit of a downward turn. I think mainly even in this 30 foot of water where you're fishing, you know, the sort of chill that can put in the water quick obviously knocked the fishing down. Caught a couple of skimmers early. I didn't even bother with the pole, it was that windy. I'm just fishing at 60 metres. I want to try and catch I was thinking if I can catch 20 to 25 pound, I'm going to have a chance of maybe winning. A little bit of, what sort of made it difficult was Steve Harwood, who'd won it the first day, had drawn next peg to where Richard Taylor was, but he was in good company with anglers like Darren Davis, Dean Barlow. But I really thought to myself, he's going to catch £20 plus no matter what he does. So I'm going to need to fish in a way where I've got a chance of catching, in excess of £30 to win. However, couldn't have been more wrong. After about an hour, I'd had 2 small skimmers, one about 10 ounces, one about a pound, and there was just nothing being caught. And it was obvious that it's just a case of sitting tight and hoping you can get a few pulls off of bigger fish late on. Nothing really happened. I've got Richard Taylor 2 or 3 pegs to my right. He actually weighed in about £5. Penn was 2 pegs to my left. Brilliant angler, Penn Wrighting. He's weighed in £4, I think. And I managed to win the section with I think I had just over £13, which was one big bream, 4.5, £5, a real bonus, and about 8 skimmers. It really was a case. I probably overdid it with the bait a bit. But again, like I'm there to win. I want to give myself a chance, and I want to fish in a way that if it costs me, I know I've been too positive. I don't want to leave fishing my peg and walk away thinking I've been too negative. So a section win on both days was fantastic, in good company. Really enjoyed the fishing. Like I've already said, the actual competition was decided on weight. Steve Harwood again, brilliant performance the second day, 20 odd pound. Took the event out, won it outright, absolutely fantastic. Only just beating Dean. Dean did, I think he had £20 the first day and 40 or £46 the second day. I think he lost out by about £5 or £6. Absolutely fantastic. The fishing, I just enjoyed it so much. It's a venue that excites me, like I've already said. I can't wait to get back there. I can't wait to book my tickets for the following qualifiers and get back on it. Again, yeah, lessons learned. Was a little bit too positive. Should have read that northerly wind, and you'll hear me talk a lot about looking at the weather, looking at the wind, looking at the air pressure, looking at the wind direction, and it's very, very important. It's something that in the past, I'll be perfectly honest, I haven't incorporated into my fishing enough. Need to start looking at that. In the last 2 or 3 years, it's something that I've really, really sort of, taken a lot more notice of, and I should have done that day. I should have known that cold northerly wind was going to knock it down a bit and fished a little bit more negative. But like I say, on a personal note, won my section both days, really enjoyed it. Ended up 7th on weight, so again had a nice little pickup which paid for the diesel money and the worms, more importantly, that I took to Bough Beech. But like I say, can't wait to get back. Congratulations to Steve Harwood, fantastic performance, and Dean and all the other guys. And also a massive thanks to Mark Hayes and all the team at Bough Beech that, not only provide the venue, but do a fantastic job running the qualifiers and the final. So like I say, there's another Match Memories for you. Like I say, I've had a love affair with Bough Beech, and I just wanted to share that with you because I absolutely adore the place. So until the next Match Memories, tight lines, good luck, and I'll see you on the bank soon.